Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name's Ben Wilting, and I'm with the Amarillo Public Library. This is the final part of our 13-part series explaining how to obtain citizenship in the United States. Today, we will be covering how to fill out the N-400 form. Stay tuned. The N-400 is the form that you will submit to begin your citizenship process. It is very important that you understand every question on the N-400. During your interview, you will be asked about everything that you filled out on that N-400. Today, we will go over all of the questions and what they mean. We will also explain how you can send this form out and give you some helpful resources. Let's get started. In this session, we will be going over the N-400. The purpose of this video is to go over the N-400 question by question to make sure that you understand the language that's being used. I'm not going to offer any suggestions or legal advice on how to fill out the form. If you have any legal questions about the form or any in-depth information that you need, you can always reach out to an immigration attorney or a certified OLAP specialist. That's the Office of Legal Access Programs. They're certified to help you with immigration and citizenship issues, legal issues. But today, we're just going to be going over the form piece by piece so that you understand what you are filling out. You are allowed to fill out the form yourself and send it in. You are allowed to have someone help you with it, maybe to help you explain the language, and that's what I'll be doing today. So let's go ahead and start at the very beginning. Before we get started, I just want to note, when you are filling out this form, it is very important, very, very important, that you understand every question, every part fully, and that you answer all of these parts honestly. If at any point you answer something on this form incorrectly, it could create complications when they're processing your form. So you want to make sure that you understand everything you're filling out and that you're answering honestly. When you go into your USCIS citizenship interview, they're going to go over this form with you. And if they start to go over it with you and it's clear to them that you don't understand what you filled out, there could be an issue there. So before you go in, when you're filling this form out, make sure that you understand everything you're filling out. And as you wait to go to your interview, make sure that you're still looking at this N-400 and that you understand the language that's being used. Like with many of our other sessions, you can find a link to the USCIS N-400 page in the description below. On that page, you'll find the form, the paper form, as well as an online form that you can fill out. You'll also find a set of instructions for the N-400. These instructions are organized in such a way that if you have an issue with a certain part or a certain question, you can find that part in the instructions and get some clarification. So if you have any issues with this, I would first look at the instructions and see if they clear that issue up. Okay, so let's get started. Part 1, information about your eligibility. Are you able to apply for citizenship? Is basically what that means. Number 1, are you at least 18 years of age? Are you 18 years old is what that's asking. Part A, have been a lawful permanent resident of the United States for 5 years. So when you look at your resident card or your green card, there's going to be a date when that was issued. If that date was 5 years ago, then you will have been a permanent resident for at least 5 years. If it has not been 5 years, then you're not going to select this box. Okay. B, have you been a lawful permanent resident of the United States for at least 3 years? In addition, you have been married and living with the same U.S. citizen spouse for the last 3 years, and your spouse has been a U.S. citizen for the last 3 years at the time you file your N-400. So, what this is saying, you will have been married to a U.S. citizen for 3 years, and they have been U.S. citizens for those 3 years. Okay. C, are a lawful permanent resident of the United States, and you have been a spouse of the spouse of a U.S. citizen, and your U.S. citizen spouse is regularly engaged in specified employment abroad. If your residential address is outside of the United States and you are filing under Section 319B, select a USCIS field office from the list below where you would like to have your naturalization interview. If you are selecting Section C, you will probably have already talked to a legal professional. D, are applying on the basis of qualifying military service. If you're applying for this one, you're a member of the military, and there's probably someone in the military designated to assist you with this. Letter D. E, other, explain. Okay. Part 2, information about you. So this is going to be personal information. Your current legal name. Do not provide nicknames. Your current legal name. So your legal name is the name that is on all your legal documents. If you have a driver's license, this is going to be the name that's on your driver's license. Number 2, your name exactly as it appears on your permanent resident card. So your permanent resident card has your name printed on it. That is what you need to look for when you fill out this question. Other names that you have used since birth, including nicknames, aliases, maiden names, if applicable. Okay. These are any names that you would have responded to at any point in your life. Okay. Number 4, name change. Optional. Optional means that you don't have to do this. Okay, you don't have to change your name. It is up to you. Read the form N-400 instructions before you decide whether or not you would like to legally change your name. Again, those instructions can be found in the description. Would you like to legally change your name? Yes or no? If you answered yes, type or print the new name that you would like to use in the spaces provided below. Number 5, U.S. Social Security number. This will be your Social Security number as it's given on your Social Security card. If applicable, that just means if that applies to you, if you have one. USCIS online account number, if any. The USCIS online account number is a number that USCIS gives you so that you can track forms and you can track your wait times. If you don't have one, that's what the if any means. If you don't know if you have one, you probably don't have one, and they will send you one after you submit this application. Gender. Are you a man or a woman? Male or female? Male being man, female being woman. Number 8, date of birth. Number 9, the date you became a lawful permanent resident. Number 10, country of birth. This is the country you were born in. Number 11, country of citizenship or nationality. This is the country that you are currently a citizen of. Do you have any physical or developmental disability or mental impairment that prevents you from demonstrating your knowledge or understanding of the English language and or civics requirements for naturalization? What this means is, do you have something that would prevent you from learning or speaking English or from remembering the civics questions? It's some sort of physical or mental issue that you have. That's what it's asking on number 12. If you answer yes, please submit a completed form N-648, medical certification for disability exceptions, when you file your N-400. This is a complete other form it's asking you for here. So if you check the box for yes, there's another form that you will be required, a medical professional will be required to fill out for this. Number 13, exemptions from the English language test. Exemption means that you don't have to take it. Okay, so these are the rules for not having to take the English language test. The first one, you are over 50 years old or older and have lived in the United States as a lawful permanent resident for periods totaling at least 20 years at the time that you file your N-400. Okay, so if you are 50 years old and have legally lived in the United States for 20 years, you can qualify for the English language exemption. The second one, are you 55 years old or older and have lived in the United States as a lawful permanent resident for periods totaling at least 15 years? So, if you're 55 or older and have lived in the United States legally for 15 years or more, you're exempt. And the final one, are you 65 years old or older and have lived in the United States as a lawful permanent resident for periods totaling at least 20 years at the time you file your N-400? If you meet this requirement, you will also be given a simplified version of the civics test. So this one, the requirements are, you are 65 years old or older and have lived legally in the United States for 20 years or more. If that's the case, not only can you take the test in another language, your native language, you also will receive a simpler civics test. Instead of studying 100 questions, you only have to study 20 questions. Okay. Part 3. Accommodations for individuals with disabilities or impairments. Okay. Note, read the information in the Form N-400 instructions before completing this part. So number 1, are you requesting accommodations because of your disability or impairment? So an accommodation is special treatment. Are you requesting special treatment because there's something that you can't do well because of a physical issue, a physical disability? If the answer is yes, select any applicable box. So A, I am deaf or hard of hearing. That means you can't hear well. your ears. There's some issue with your ears. And request the following accommodation. The second one there, I am blind or have low vision and request the following accommodation. So one of the portions of your citizenship test is to be able to read and to write in English. If you're blind, you may not be able to do that. This is the part where you would fill that in. That's what it's asking. What accommodations do you need if you cannot see? C, the final one, I have another type of disability or impairment. For example, use a wheelchair. Describe the nature of your disability or impairment and the accommodation you are requesting. So in this blank, they're asking for any other disability that might prevent you from taking the test or having trouble during the test. If you have some sort of physical or mental disability here that you need an accommodation for, you can check this box and fill in the information below in the space. Part 4, information to contact you. If you only have one phone number, that's fine. Just fill it into the spaces that are that apply to that number. If you use your cell phone during the day and the evening, that number is going to be the same. Information about your residence. Part 5. Where have you lived during the last 5 years? Provide the most recent residence and then list every location where you have lived during the last 5 years. If you need extra space, use additional sheets of paper. Okay. So, what this question is asking, they want to know where you have lived for the last 5 years. So look at today's date, go back 5 years, and think of every place that you've lived. Provide your most recent residence and then list every location you have lived during that 5 years. What that means is, where do you live now? That'll be the first place that you put on there. Current physical address. That means, where do I live now? Okay, so you'll fill out the place where you live now and then you'll work backward. If you need extra space, use an additional sheet of paper. So if you run out of spaces for residence, you're going to want to make sure that you type up the additional information on a separate sheet of paper and make sure that all of this information that they're asking for, you include on that additional sheet of paper. So let's look at the first address, current physical address, A. These addresses are going to ask you for some information about your address. Street number and name. There's then some check boxes next to it. That first checkbox, APT, that stands for apartment. STE, that stands for suite. FLR, that means floor. City or town, this is the city you live in. The county, this is the county that your city is located in. If you don't know that, you'll need to look it up. The state you live in, and then your zip code plus the 4-digit mailing code. Okay. Province or region. These are for foreign addresses only. So if you're currently living in the United States, disregard that. Foreign means outside of the United States. Postal code, again, foreign addresses only. And country, foreign addresses only. Dates of residence. So from, that's when you started to live at a certain place. So the day you moved in, that'll be the date that you put in the from. And to will be the day you moved out, or if it's where you're currently living, you can put present or the current day. Okay. Mailing address, if different from address above. If you receive your mail in a different location than you live, then you have a mailing address that is different from the address above. So in care of, that's just the name of whoever lives at where the mail is going, and then again, street number and name, that's the address, and you would just fill the rest of the information out as you would normally. Part C, physical address 2. This will be the place that you lived before your current address. Okay. For some of you, you may have lived at your current address for more than 5 years, in which case you'll only fill out letter A. If you've lived more than 4 places in the last 5 years, you'll need to add another sheet of paper. All the information for these is the same, or all the questions being asked are the same. So you'll just fill out the information for each different residence that you lived at. Part 6, information about your parents. If neither one of your parents is a United States citizen, then skip this part and go to Part 7. So, Part 6, number 1. Were your parents married before your 18th birthday? Yes or no? Information about your mother. Is your mother a U.S. citizen? If your mother's a U.S. citizen, you'll put yes. If she's not, you'll put no. If you answered yes, complete the following information. If you answered no, go to item 3. So we're going to look at Part 6, letter A, or question 2, letter A. This is the information about your mother. You'll fill out the current legal name of your U.S. citizen mother, her last name, first name, and middle name. You will put down your mother's country of birth, what country she was born in. You will put your mother's birth date, the month, day, and year that she was born, and the date your mother became a U.S. citizen. And then E, mother's A number, if any. Information about your father. Is your father a U.S. citizen? Yes or no? If you answer yes, complete the information below. If you answer no, go to Part 7. Again, if you answered no, then you can go straight to the next part. If you answered yes, fill out the information about your father. Okay. Part 7, biographical information. Note, USCIS requires you to complete the categories below to conduct background checks. See Form N-400 instructions for more information. So what does biographical information mean? That just means some information about you. Okay, physical information about you. Part 8, information about your employment and schools you attend. List where you have worked or attended school full-time or part-time during the last 5 years. Provide information for the complete time period, including all military, police, or intelligence service. Begin by providing information about your most recent or current employment, studies, or unemployment, if applicable. Provide the locations and dates where you worked, were self-employed, were unemployed, or have studied in the last 5 years. If you worked for yourself, type or print self-employed. If you were unemployed, type or print unemployed. If you need extra space, use additional sheets of paper. Okay, so that's a lot. So let's go through it. Again, they're asking for a 5-year time period, and they want you to go from the most recent all the way back 5 years. If you run out of room, they want you to put everything else on a separate sheet of paper. So for this one, it is possible that you were perhaps working multiple jobs or going to school while you were going to work, and some of your dates may overlap. That's okay. Just go from the most recent one, the one you're currently in, or the one that is closest to today's date, and work your way back. And there's several blanks. Looks like there's 3 total. So if you've worked more than 3 places or gone to school and worked for more than 3 places in the last 5 years, you're going to have to add another sheet of paper. And you'll either write it or type it on that sheet of paper. Make sure that all the information, the employer and the school name, address, city, town, all of that is on that separate sheet of paper so that they have all the information about your employer or school. Okay, part 9, time outside the United States. Number 1, how many total days, 24 hours or longer, did you spend outside the United States in the last 5 years? Okay. It is asking for any period 24 hours or longer that you spent outside the United States. Okay. Number 2, how many trips, 24 hours or longer, have you taken outside the United States in the last 5 years? So a trip is the entire visit. So you may take one trip outside the United States that lasts 7 days. You could also take 7 trips outside the United States that each last 1 day. Number 3, list below all of the trips of 24 hours or longer that you have taken outside the United States in the last 5 years. Start with your most recent trip and work backwards. If you need extra space, use an additional sheet of paper or additional sheets of paper. So they want you to start with the last time you left the country and work back, just like the job and just like the residence. So the first column says the date you left the United States. The second column is the date you returned to the United States. Did the trip last 6 months or longer? The countries to which you traveled to. Total days outside of the United States. You'll count up the day you left to the day you returned and count how many days you were outside the country, and you'll put the total number of days in that last column. Number 10, information about your marital history. Marital history just means they want to know about when you were married and who you were married to. It all has to do with your marriages. Okay. So number 1, what is your current marital status? The first one, single, never married. Okay. The second, married. This means you're currently married to another person. The third option, divorced. You were married to someone, but you've been legally divorced. Widowed. This means you were married, but your spouse, the person you were married to, has died. Separated. This means you're currently married, however, the person you're married to, you're no longer living with them. Okay? You're living in separate places, you have separate lives. Okay? Marriage annulled. If you've had a marriage annulled, that's a special circumstance, and you'll select this box. Okay. If you are single and never married, go to part 11. So part 10, number 2. If you are married, is your spouse a current member of the U.S. Armed Forces? Number 3, how many times have you been married? In including annulled marriages, marriages to other people, and marriages to the same person. Number 4, if you are married now, provide the following information about your current spouse. So if you are currently married, you're going to fill out all the information about the person you are married to. Okay. Number 5, is your current spouse a U.S. citizen? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, answer item 6. If the answer is no, go to item 7. Part 10, number 6, if your current spouse is a U.S. citizen, complete the following information. So if you answered yes to 5, you'll complete this. A, when did your current spouse become a U.S. citizen? At birth, and if you select at birth, you go to number 8, or other, complete the following information. If you select other, then you'll fill out B, which is the date your current spouse became a U.S. citizen. Part 10, number 7. If your current spouse is not a U.S. citizen, complete the following information. So, A, current spouse's country of citizenship or nationality. This will be the country that your spouse is a citizen of. B, current spouse's A number, if any. C, current spouse's immigration status. So, if they're a U.S. resident, a lawful permanent resident, you'll select that option. If the situation is something else, you'll select the other option and write in what the situation is. Number 8, Part 10, number 8. How many times has your current spouse been married, including annulled marriages, marriages to other people, and marriages to the same person? If your current spouse has been married before, provide the following information about your current spouse's prior spouse. Okay, Part 10, number 9. If you were married before, provide the following information about your prior spouse. If you have more than one previous marriage, provide the information on an additional sheet of paper. So if you were married to someone else before you were married to who you're currently married to, or if you're currently single and you were married before, you'll fill this information out. Okay, so if you're currently not married and you had a spouse before, you'll fill this out. Or if you're currently married but you were married to someone else before, you'll fill this information out. Okay. Part 11. Information about your children. Number 1. Indicate the total number of children. You must include all children, including children who are alive, missing, or deceased, children born in the United States or in other countries, children under 18 years of age or older, children who are currently married or unmarried, children living with you in or elsewhere, current stepchildren, legally adopted children, or children who were born while you were not married. So they want every possible child that you could list, they want listed here. Okay. So you'll count up your number of children and write it in the box. And then number 2, provide the following information about all your children, listed in number 1, regardless of age. To list any additional children, use appropriate sheets of paper, additional sheets of paper. Okay, so they want all this information about all your children, and you'll fill this out for all your children. Again, they stress heavily, this isn't just children under the age of 18, these are all of your children. So, even if they're adults and they don't live in the home, even if they're estranged, even if they're deceased, they need to be listed on the form. Deceased means dead. Okay. Part number 12. Additional information about you. Answer items number 1 through 21. If you answer yes to any of these questions, include the typed or printed explanation or on additional sheets of paper. So this is called, these are the 50 questions. These are 50 yes or no questions about your life. Again, you want to understand these completely and answer them honestly. Okay. If you have any doubts about what a word means or what a question is asking, you need to look it up. You need to ask someone to explain it to you so that you fully understand what the question is asking. Okay, so we're going to go through one by one. Number 1, have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen in writing or any other way? Okay, so when it asks you, have you ever, it means ever in your life. Okay, anytime prior to this. Okay, so this question is, have you ever in your life claimed, which means you said or told someone that you were a U.S. citizen, okay, either in writing or any other way. Okay. Number 2, have you ever registered to vote in a federal, state, or local election in the United States? Registered to vote means you signed up to vote. Okay, you signed up to be able to vote in a federal, state, or local election. Have you ever voted in a federal, state, or local election in the United States? Number 4, do you now have, or did you ever have, a hereditary title or an order of nobility in a foreign country? So a hereditary title or an order of nobility, that would be like a king or a queen or a princess or a duke, something like that. B, if you answered yes, are you willing to give up any inherited titles or orders of nobility that you have in a foreign country at your naturalization ceremony? Okay, so if you are a duke or a princess, are you willing to give that up when you are sworn in? Okay. Number 5, have you ever been legally declared legally incompetent or have been confined to a mental institution? A mental institution is where they care for people with mental issues, psychological issues. Number 6, do you owe any overdue federal, state, or local taxes? To owe means that you need to pay. Okay, so if you owe the federal government taxes, you need to pay them taxes. You haven't paid it yet. Number 7, have you ever not filed a federal, state, or local tax return since you became a lawful permanent resident? So, do you always file for your taxes, or did you miss one? B, if yes, do you consider yourself to be a non-U.S. resident? Number 8, have you ever called yourself a non-U.S. resident on a federal, state, or local tax return since becoming a lawful permanent resident? Okay. Again, if you've selected that option on your taxes, you need to answer accordingly. Number 9, have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with any organization, association, fund, foundation, party, club, society, or similar group in the United States or in any other location in the world? If you answered yes, provide the information below. If you need extra space, attach the names of the other groups on an additional sheet of paper and provide any evidence to support your answers. Have you ever been a member of or in any way associated, either directly or indirectly, with the Communist Party, any other totalitarian party, a terrorist organization? Have you ever advocated, either directly or indirectly, the overthrow of any government by force or violence? Okay. So, have you ever advocated? Advocated means support. You can either support it directly or supporting indirectly. Number 12, have you ever persecuted, either directly or indirectly, any person because of race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion? Okay, so persecuted means to harm or to put down, okay, to try to make their life harder. Number 13, between March 23rd, 1933 and May 8th, 1945, did you ever work for or associate in any way, either directly or indirectly, with the Nazi government of Germany, any government in the area occupied, allied with, or established with the help of the Nazi government of Germany, or any German, Nazi, or SS military unit, paramilitary unit, self-defense unit, vigilante unit, citizen unit, police unit, government agency or office, extermination camp, concentration camp, prisoner of war camp, prisoner labor camp, or transit camp. So this question's asking, if you were alive between 1933 and 1945, were you ever working or associated with the Nazi Party, the Nazi government? Number 14, were you ever involved in any way with any of the following? Okay. So when you read this, were you ever means ever in your lifetime involved in any way. So this can mean you were doing it or someone was doing this to you. Involved in any way with any of the following. So you'll go down the list. A, genocide. So genocide is a word that means the extermination of a certain group of people based on their race or possibly their religious beliefs. Okay, so were you ever involved in any way in the elimination of people based on their race or religious beliefs? Were you ever involved in any way with torture? So torture is harming someone with the intention of causing pain. Were you ever involved in killing or trying to kill somebody? Okay, trying to end somebody's life. Were you ever involved in badly hurting or trying to hurt a person on purpose? Forcing or trying to force someone to have any kind of sexual contact or relations. If you tried to rape or tried to sexually assault someone, or someone was trying to rape or sexually assault you. Involved in any way in not letting someone practice his or her religion. Okay, number 15. Were you ever a member of, or did you ever serve in, help, or otherwise participate in any of the following groups? A military group. Okay, this would be the Army. A paramilitary group. This is a group of people who act like a military group, but are not part of the official military. C, a police unit. That's like the police that you see in the United States. People who are in charge of keeping order, for helping, serving and protecting the community, writing tickets. A self-defense unit. This is a military unit or an army, but they are only to defend the area or the country. They're not allowed, or they're not supposed to be used to attack other countries or other areas. A vigilante unit. E, a vigilante unit. This is a group of people who act like police but are not part of the official police. F, a rebel group. A rebel group is a group of people who fight to overthrow the government. G, a guerrilla group. A group of people who use weapons or otherwise physically attack the military, police, government, or other people. Okay. A militia, H. A militia is an army of people not part of the official military. Okay, so a militia is usually a group of civilians who are organized to fight, but they're not officially part of the military. Insurgent organization, I. A group that uses weapons to fight against the government. Number 16. Were you ever a worker, volunteer, or soldier? Or did you otherwise ever serve in the following? A prison or jail, a prison camp, C, a detention facility, a place where people are forced to stay. Detention facilities are normally temporary. A labor camp, a place where people are forced to work. D, and E, any other place where people are forced to stay. Okay. Number 17, were you ever a part of any group, or did you ever help any group, unit, or organization that used a weapon against any person or threatened to do so? If you answered yes, when you were part of this group and when you helped the group, did you ever use a weapon against another person? So did you personally use weapons against other people? Okay. B, if you answered yes, when you were part of this group, when you helped this group, did you ever tell another person that you would use weapons against that person? Okay. Did you ever tell another person that you would use weapons against that person? Okay. So A is asking, did you actually use weapons against people personally? And B is saying, did you ever tell someone you were going to use weapons against them? Number 18, did you ever sell, give, or provide weapons to any person or help another person sell, give, or provide weapons to any person? Okay, so have you ever sold or distributed weapons to people? A, if you answered yes, did you know that this person was going to use the weapons against another person? So did you know that the weapons you sold were going to be used against other people? Or B, if you answered yes, did you know that this person was going to sell or give the weapons to someone who might use them against other people? Okay, so it's asking, have you ever sold weapons to another person? Did you know that these weapons were going to be used against anyone? Or did you know that these people that you sold weapons to were going to give them to someone who was going to use them against someone? Okay. Number 19. Did you ever receive any type of military paramilitary, a group of people who act like the military, act like a military group but are not part of the official military, or weapons training. Okay, so have you ever been trained with weapons, or have you ever had military training? Okay. Did you ever recruit? Recruit means ask. Enlist means you sign them up. Or conscript. Conscript means you required someone. Or use any person under the age of 15 years to serve in or help an armed force or group. Okay, so this question's asking, have you ever tried to get 15-year-olds to join the Army? 21. Did you ever use any person under 15 years of age to do anything to help or supported people in combat? So have you ever used 15-year-olds or younger to help in a combat situation? Okay. Now the instructions for 22 through 28. If any of item numbers 22 through 28 apply to you, you must answer yes, even if your record has been sealed, expunged, or otherwise cleared. You must disclose this information even if someone, including a judge, law enforcement officer, or attorney, told you that it no longer constitutes a record, or told you that you do not have to disclose the information. Number 22. Have you ever committed, assisted in committing, or attempted to commit a crime or offense for which you were not arrested? That's number 22. Number 23. Have you ever been arrested, cited, or detained by a law enforcement officer, including any immigration office or any official of the U.S. Armed Forces for any reason? 24. Have you ever been charged with committing, attempting to commit, or assisting to commit a crime or offense? Number 25. Have you ever been convicted of a crime or offense? 26. Have you ever been placed in an alternative sentencing or rehabilitation program? For example, diversion, deferred prosecution, withheld adjudication, deferred adjudication. 27. Have you ever received a suspended sentence, been placed on probation, or been paroled? If you answered yes, have you completed your probation or parole? Number 28. Have you ever been in jail or prison? Okay. If you answer yes, how long were you in jail or prison? Okay, so they want the number of years, the number of months, the number of days. And number 29. If you answer no to all questions in item number 23 through 28, then skip this item and go to number 30. If you answered yes to any of the item number 23 through 28, then complete this table. If you need extra space, you can use additional sheets of paper and provide any evidence to support your answers. Okay. It says in the instructions, if you need an extra sheet of paper, use an additional sheet, and provide any evidence to support your answer. Answer items number 30 through 46. If you answer yes to any of these questions, except item number 37 and 38, please include a typed printed explanation on additional sheets of paper and provide any evidence to support your answers. So if you answer yes to any of these besides 37 and 38, then you'll have to provide an explanation. Number 30, have you ever, again, this is ever in your life, A, been a habitual drunkard? Habitual means all the time. You do it a lot. You do it as a habit. Habitual drunkard. Drunkard means you drink a lot of alcohol. Another way to put this would be, have you ever been an alcoholic? B, have you ever been a prostitute or procured anyone for prostitution? So if you've ever sold your body for sex, or if you've ever bought sex from another person. C, sold or smuggled controlled substances, illegal drugs, or narcotics. So if you've ever sold drugs to somebody, or smuggled drugs. Smuggled means to move secretly. That's what this question's asking. D, been married to more than one person at the same time. E, married someone in order to obtain an immigration benefit. Helped someone to enter or try to enter the United States illegally. G, gambled illegally or received income from illegal gambling. H, failed to support your dependents or to pay alimony. I, made a misrepresentation to obtain any public benefit in the United States. So a misrepresentation would be if I lied, or if I didn't tell someone something in order to gain a public benefit. 31. Have you ever given any U.S. government official any information or documentation that was false, fraudulent, or misleading? 32. Have you ever lied to a U.S. government official to gain entry or admission in the United States, or to gain immigration benefits while in the United States? 33. Have you ever been removed, excluded, or deported from the United States? 34. Have you ever been ordered removed, excluded, or deported from the United States? And have you ever been placed in removal, exclusion, rescission, or deportation proceedings? Okay. 36. Are removal, exclusion, rescission, or deportation proceedings, including administratively closed proceedings, currently pending against you? 37. Have you ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces? Have you ever served in the U.S. military? 38. Are you currently a member of the U.S. Armed Forces? Are you currently a member of the U.S. military or Army? B, if you answered yes, are you scheduled to deploy overseas, including to a vessel, within the next 3 months? Okay, so are you leaving in the next 3 months? Deploying in the next 3 months? C, if you answer yes, are you currently stationed overseas? 39. Have you ever been court-martialed, administratively separated, or disciplined? Or have you received an other than honorable discharge while in the U.S. Armed Forces? 40. Have you ever been discharged from training or service in the U.S. Armed Forces because you were an alien? 41. Have you ever left the United States to avoid being drafted in the U.S. Armed Forces? 42. Have you ever applied for any kind of exemption from military service in the U.S. Armed Forces? Have you ever deserted from the U.S. Armed Forces? Deserted means to leave without permission. Number 44. Are you a male who lived in the United States at any time between your 18th and 26th birthday? This does not include living in the United States as a lawful non-immigrant. If you answered yes, when did you register for selective service? Provide that information below. Your selective service number and the date registered can be found online. If you answered yes, but did not register with selective service, and you are 1, still under 26 years of age, you must register before you apply for naturalization. 2, if you are now 26 to 31 years of age, but did not register with the Selective Service, you must attach a statement explaining why you did not register and provide a status information letter from Selective Service. Answer item 45 through 50. If you answer no to any of these questions, including the typed or printed explanation, include a typed or printed explanation on additional sheets of paper and provide any evidence to support your answer. So number 45, do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? Number 46, do you understand the full Oath of Allegiance? The Oath of Allegiance is what you will take after your citizenship interview. If you do not know what the Oath of Allegiance is, you need to look that up. Number 47, are you willing to take the full Oath of Allegiance to the United States? Okay, so you need to understand it, and you need to be willing to take the Oath of Allegiance. An oath is a promise. So when you say you're willing to take the full Oath of Allegiance, you're saying that you're willing to make a promise to uphold a certain set of rules to the United States. Number 48, if the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? So bear arms means to carry weapons, to fight for. 49, if the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services for the U.S. Armed Forces? Okay, so this is asking, are you willing to help soldiers in ways that don't involve fighting? 50, if the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? So let's go down to part 13. Applicant statement, certification, and signature. It says, note, read the penalties section of the Form N-400 instructions before completing this part. So again, refer to the instructions. Number 1, applicant's statement regarding an interpreter. So this is asking you if you needed an interpreter or not. If you didn't need an interpreter, you'll fill out the first one. A, I can read and understand English, and I have read and understood and understand every question and instruction on this application and my answer to every question. If you did need an interpreter, if you needed someone to explain this form to you, then you need to fill out B. The interpreter named in part 14 read to me every question and instruction on this form and my answer to every question in, and this is where you'll put your native language, a language which I am fluent and understand everything. Number 2, applicant's statement regarding a preparer. At my request, the preparer named in part 15, okay, you'll put the preparer's name in that box, prepared this application for me based upon information I provided and authorized. Applicant's certification. Copies of any documents I have submitted are exact photocopies, unaltered original documents, and I understand that USCIS may require that I submit original documents to USCIS at a later date. Furthermore, I authorize the release of any information from any of my records that USCIS may need to determine my eligibility for immigration benefit that I seek. So what that's saying is any information, any other documents that you submit with this, and there are required documents that you need to submit with your N-400, you can find those in the instructions. If when you submit those, they're exact photocopies. You didn't change them, you didn't make them look different, you didn't change any of the information on them, they're exactly as they are. They're perfect copies. I furthermore authorize the release of information contained in this application and supporting documents and in the USCIS records to other entries and persons where necessary for the administrative and enforcement of U.S. immigration law. I understand that USCIS will require me to appear for an appointment to take my biometrics, fingerprints, photographs, and or signature. And at that time, I will be required to sign an oath reaffirming that I reviewed and provided or authorized all of the information on my application. I understood all of the information contained in and submitted with my application, and all the information was complete, true, and correct at the time of filing. I certify under penalty of perjury that I provided or authorized all of the information in my application. I understand all of the information contained in and submitted with my application, and that all of the information is complete, true, and correct. And then you'll sign on the applicant signature in that box, and you'll date it right next to it. Okay. Note to all applicants: if you do not completely fill out the application or fail to submit required documents listed in the instructions, USCIS may deny your application. Part 14, interpreter contact information. So if you add an interpreter, they're going to have to fill out their name and their mailing address. Okay. And then they're going to have to sign that they're fluent in whatever language they were supposed to be interpreting. They'll sign on Part 14, number 7, under interpreter signature, and they'll date as well. And the same goes for part number 15. This is for a preparer. They'll fill out their full name, their mailing address, as well as their contact information, and then they will either check the box stating that they are not an attorney or an accredited representative, or that they are an attorney or an accredited representative. Okay, and then they will sign and date as well. Part 16 is not for you to fill out at this time. That'll be filled out either during your interview or by USCIS. So, I know it's a lot to look at, it's a lot to take in, but if you take your time and carefully go through it, it is certainly doable. Again, all of the information will be linked in the description below, and you can fill out the form while you have the instructions in front of you at the same time. That's likely the best and most accurate way of doing it. Thank you for joining us. That was class number 13. This concludes the Citizenship course for the Amarillo Public Library. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.